Shop, and just gonna pan right here. So initially you're just gonna go file, and depending on where you downloaded the image, most likely your downloads folder on your PC or Mac, or you open it from a different location. So go file, open. You can click and drag as well from, say, the Finder or Windows Explorer and drag it in, but for sake of argument, this is the easier, more efficient way. Go file, open, and a dialog box will open up. Find the location. In this case, I have it on my desktop, and click on it, and it'll open. Okay. So, anyways, mine's already opened. So I know a few shortcut commands, and I'll go through them in today's lesson. But right now I'm on a Mac, so it's a spacebar command and the Alt Option button. I'm going to back up. Okay. Now, navigating, you could click on this icon right here, which is the zoom key. So if you're not familiar with the shortcuts, clicking on this will allow you to choose the plus or minus. So if I wanted to zoom in on something, I can click and drag. You could, if you're using any other tool, just use your scroll wheel while holding the Alt Option button, either a PC or Mac. If you have a scroll wheel, if you go in and out by rolling the wheel, okay? If you hold spacebar only, that toggles to the pan. Now, let me zoom in a few times, like extra. So when I hold spacebar, I can pan across the photograph when I'm zoomed in. Obviously, this won't work if you're zoomed out. If you're zoomed out, here I'm going to Command 0 or Control 0 for PC users. And here I click spacebar, I'm not really panning much. I'm just going across. Okay, so it really works well. Now, if I'm really zoomed out, the panning does really nothing. Okay. Command 0, if you're looking just to go to the default size. Like, for example, I go way too close, and I'm like, oh no, what did I do? Just press Command 0 or Control 0 on a PC, and it'll take you back to kind of a default view. A nice feature for navigating, if you click on Window, go to Navigator, and this is a nice, neat way. This pops up over here, and you can zoom in and zoom out like this, and the red box, you can pan that way too. So if you don't like shortcuts, the navigator is a nice little touch to navigate through your image. Okay. When I press Command 0, go back to 0. One of the first things we're going to learn is how to crop a photo using the crop tool. So this is the crop tool right over here. You can learn some cool things by clicking lower how, but for now I'm just going to show you. Click here. You have some options. Right on the top left, I'm going to click a one-to-one square, which is kind of like a fan favorite with the Instagram crowd. So what you're going to do is you're going to click and drag and kind of crop the image so we kind of get rid of the riffraff of the other cars and just kind of focus on this vehicle. Click and drag your image inside the rectangle, sorry, the square, and this is kind of user defined. You pick and choose what you feel is the nicest. I'm just going to bring it so I have a nice equal space on the bottom and on the top, sort of. And I'm going to crop it more that way. So I'm happy with that. Once you've fiddled around, you can press the little check mark here, or just press the enter button or return button on your keyboard, and that will accept it. So that's one of the tasks, is just cropping and framing it. The next task is going to be to duplicate your layer. I'll explain why. Well, you want to change the color. Okay? Now, what we're going to do is I'm going to make a mistake right now to show you, okay, why we need to duplicate. So I'm going to go to Image, Adjustment, and go to Replace Color with a cool feature. Now, why I want to duplicate the layer is because sometimes when you do Replace Color, it picks up other colors similar to this and changes them. And you don't want to do that. You want to really just focus on the vehicle's blue and change the blue color. So as I'm going through the blues here, I'm going to pick this blue. I'm using the add feature. And I'm going to just change the color as I do this so you can see how it's changing it. Now you'll notice that, see some of the purples, because the blues are in the photograph. I'm going to zoom in other parts of the photograph, and you can see why zooming in is a nice feature. So I'm adding that blue because I want to replace it. But in the meantime, I'm also kind of picking up other colors like the car back here and the card back here, they've all changed color. So I don't want to do that. So this is what, before you go and do the color replace, you need to duplicate the background. Okay, so we're going to right click. Now, if I just double click here, accept this, and I get rid of this tool and go to my move tool. I can call this the original the original file. And to duplicate a layer, you can just right click and just say, I want to duplicate the layer. So what duplicating layer does, I'll say, that's fine, original copy, is the one above. There's actually two images here. There's the original, which is below, and the one I just kind of moved. Now, if you know how to use the history feature, you can go back this way to a step. You can also press Command Z. If you want to go back multiple steps, and take a note, it's a little bit different than other computers. You have to do Command Shift C to go back multiple steps. So you have to add another shortcut command. Typically, most programs go Command Z. Actually, you know what? I apologize. Command Z now works multiple times on the new version of Adobe Photoshop. I apologize. Forgot they added this feature. I think people were complaining that Command Z wasn't a multiple step back. So anyways, you can do Command Z multiple times or go into your history. To find history, if you can't find it, click on history right here, or usually it's right here on the right hand side. Okay, so now I have two versions of it. Now the reason why I'm doing this is I'm going to grab one of my masking tools, and I'll probably demonstrate this throughout the class. And I'm just going to go and mask around as close as I can, and you pick the best masking method you feel. In this, I'm going to use my hand and eye coordination with the lasso tool and just kind of crop around the vehicle so I kind of don't get the other vehicles involved. Alright, so use your hand and eye coordination to the best of your ability. I will show more advanced ways of cropping later on, but because we're kind of new to Photoshop, I don't want to like scare you with more advanced techniques. This is just simple stuff. Alright, so I have a mask. Now, I'm just going to hide the eyeball, and the eyeballs will hide the layers. So on this layer, take note, I got to be highlighted on this layer, okay, and the eyeballs are this. Now, if I press the delete button, I will technically make a hole through the image, okay? I don't want to do that. I want to delete everything else other than the image, all right? So what you can do is go to image, how do I select? Inverse. What inverse does, it selects everything else but the thing you wanted. So you can see that the dancing ants masking around the image, okay? Now if I press the delete button, I will delete that, okay? So keep in mind, I still have the original image here. Do me a favor, don't move the images around. Like, don't accidentally go in here and start moving your base layer and it'll throw everything off. You kind of need it to be aligned on top of each other, okay? So if that's the case, you don't want to move it, a little trick is click on the original layer and click the lock button, and that prevents you from accidentally moving it. See how I can't move it now? Okay, so keep that in mind. All right, so now I'm on the original layer. Now what I'm going to do is focus in on the image adjustments and color or replace color feature. It's a nice little feature. What I'm doing here is I can use the eyedropper, but I like using the addition eyedropper because I can now, because there's different tones of blue here. There's like a darker to lighter, depending on how the light hits the vehicle. You're gonna have different essentially hues. So if I click here, it's one set of hue, and to see this, you can change the hue off the bat. And with the addition, I'm gonna say, oh yeah, I didn't pick up this blue because it wasn't in the gamut of colors. So when I click on it, it's picked up that color. It's picked up this blue here now. So as I'm clicking, it's adding the blues to its repertoire of colors that it needs to change. Okay, and you can see the difference here. Between the original and the background, it picked up some of the black and blues from there. So this is the reason why we kind of do a duplicate. Now I can go in and show you other ways to correct this, okay? All right, so that's looking good. Play with the lightness if you want to make the cars color light. Oh, maybe that was a bad idea. Let's just go back to 0 on that one. Saturation, like how much intensity of the color change. So that looks pretty cool. Let's see what it looks like. Green. Anyways, you pick and choose what color you like. Obviously, it can't be the original, so do not use the original color, and just play with the hue, saturation, lightness. Obviously, didn't work so well. Yeah, I kind of like that as green. That dark green was nice. Oh yeah, I like that. Play the saturation. Can make this more limey. What's cool about this is, guys, it's not taking away the other image, other colors. It keeps those away because it's not in the range of colors that you selected. So the reflection of the cars are still there. But you can notice there's some blue in the sky that reflected off the glass that picked up here. But we're going to fix that later. So I'm happy with that kind of green color. It looks pretty slick for me. I'm going to press OK. Now, notice the two images right here. Okay, so now I have some issues. I noticed that during my crop, it picked up some of the colors from the vehicle around it. Well, what I'm going to do here is a very basic tool I'm going to use called the eraser tool. Now, this is where you're going to have to learn to zoom in, zoom out to get in close. So I'm going to type in E for eraser. Okay, it's right here. And I'm going to click and hold, and there's other eraser tools. Any tool that you see that has a little triangle indicates that there are other tools connected to that. So I'm just going to make sure I use the eraser tool, and I'm going to shrink it. I'm going to hold down the parentheses key. What's a parentheses key? Well, next to the letter P, there's two brackets. The left bracket is to decrease, and the right size bracket is to increase the size of the bracket. You could technically just go here and change the size visually this way, but I like using that shortcut because I can go in and clean it up. Now, right now I'm using a feathered brush, a soft brush. I can go hard. You pick and choose how you want to do this. I think soft brush is good for now. And what I'm doing here is got my opacity to 100 and flows 100 and smoothing 100. So I'm going to zoom in so you can see exactly what's happening. I'm actually erasing the pixels on the layer above, right? And just coming in, just smoothing around. Don't have to be perfect for this assignment, but get rid of some of the color so it doesn't look like the color change affected it. Okay, so I'm just going to clean up this area. So it's one of the issues you're going to have. Now, had I cropped it closer and tighter, I wouldn't have to do this. Okay. So this is a time task. It takes a little while. So I'm going to decrease my brush size, get a little closer in here, clean it up. Now you're probably wondering, well, why didn't you use a hard brush? Well, I just like using the feather brush. You can, here, I'll show you what the hard brush looks like. You got to be really if you want to be super accurate, then use the hard brush. But like I say, if you leave a little bit of the green, no one's going to notice it from far. Like if I go back up here, no one's going to see that green around the edge. Okay, if you use hard, you really have to be perfect and zoom in. So if you like perfection, use the hard brush. I'm okay with you not being totally perfect on your first try with Photoshop. Okay, so the soft brush is fine. So I'm going to back up here and go back to my soft brush. Okay, and I'm going to increase my brush for this part because it's bigger, and I can delete more of these pixels on this layer. And I'm using my hand-eye coordination. If you're using a kind of tablet, if you have a stylus, that's really nice. If you're using a trackpad, it's tricky. Okay, so I got rid of that area there, and now here's a trippy part. What happens if I erase the glass? You guys ready? Okay, I'm increasing my brush. Watch this. Okay, so what you're probably wondering is what's happening here? Well, technically, I'm erasing the above image, not the below. So kind of what's happening is I'm exposing the original image below. Is that kind of cool? Maybe not. I don't know. You tell me. So anyways, I'm just going to get rid of that green so it's not... so it just looks a little bit better. So again, I'm shrinking down my brush size. I use the shortcut command. This is a problem like that green, so let's expose the original. Okay, so perfectionists, you can go in and clean it up a bit more. If you want to clean that green too, you can. Another option, ready for this, is if you get your lasso tool, or even polygonal lasso tool. Watch this. Just to start off, you can use this mask tool. Watch this. So if I click here, I have a mask. If I press delete, I delete that green from that area. Now you're probably wondering yourself, well, Mr. Almeida, what if I use the lasso tool and just kind of eyeball the mask? Yeah, you could. Technically, you can erase this way as well, right? Just be careful, okay? And technically, I can erase the pixels on top of this. Now, I erase it, nothing really happened because there's not much green or very differentiating from that, okay? So voila. Now, the one thing I didn't do, I'm gonna press Command D, just get rid of the mask, is I didn't save my file. So I'm gonna call this Almeida underscore David, my first name, and underscore PS Photoshop task 1. Okay, I'm gonna leave it as the Photoshop file format. Okay, Command D, and I'm gonna save another one. Go File, Save As. And then drop this down and the same way, just put the extension JPEG. Now a dialog box will pop up. Go maximum, right? Don't worry about the matting, leave it baseline, just press OK. And on your computer, you have a original PSD that will show the layers and a JPEG version. Now, when I open up the JPEG, note it is only a background image. All your layers and work that you've done are deleted because it becomes a different file format. Only the original PSD has the 2 layers and shows me your work. So submit both files, and voila, pick the color you like, and there you have it. Hopefully this tutorial was helpful.